dive into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us, from personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation. Good early morning. We are up live this night, y'all. It's 2:15 a.m. where I am, and I just felt the spirit, right, to come live. Actually, I was sleeping. I went to bed really early, so I have been looking at some YouTube, and I've been seeing the Nottingham plantation in Louisiana, right? The slaves burned down the Nottingham plantation in Louisiana. Then the prisoners of the jail were burning to get the fuck out of the jail. Y'all, it has been a very hot week in Louisiana. We had to come live this morning. Every day they're going to be on Diddy. So, I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of coverage on Diddy getting burnt out, as everybody else will, trying to keep up with the latest of the, updated news. So I am not going to skip over also very important issues, okay, of our lives. So let's get right into it. The Nottingham plantation of Louisiana burned down to the ground last week, y'all, and it was a sight to behold. Okay, lots of mixed reviews on it, but let's keep on sipping tea about what happened. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. If you are up late night with Tanisha, sipping tea, we're sipping some tea from the Nottingham plantation in Louisiana. It burned down to the ground. Okay, so let's get into it, y'all.
Famed Nottaway Plantation, reducing one of the largest, most opulent antebellum mansions to ashes. Yet behind its striking columns and its polished chandeliers and its lavish rooms lay a unsettling truth, a history woven into America's darkest fabric, the exploitation and oppression of enslaved Black lives. So today we're going to peel away the layers of grandeur and confront the powerful, uncomfortable narrative hidden behind Nottaway Plantation. So join me today while we discuss the destruction of Nottaway. And if you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. If you like audio-only episodes, you can find my podcast wherever you get your podcast. But without further ado, let's get started. To understand the dark history of the Nottaway Plantation, it requires stepping back to the antebellum era, stretching from the War of 1812 until the onset of the Civil War in 1861. During these decades, Southern agriculture experienced an explosion of growth driven by global demand for cash crops like cotton, tobacco, rice, and especially sugar. Southern plantations swiftly embraced these lucrative commodities, amassing tremendous fortunes that generated tremendous political and social influence. Sugar emerged as a particularly profitable, and Louisiana was perfectly suited for sugarcane's finicky cultivation. Rapidly, it became America's sugar bowl, hinting at the sweetness but also masking the undeniable human suffering. Growing and harvesting sugar demanded punishing labor year-round, infamous for its harsh intensity, unyielding workdays, and dangerous conditions. Unlike cotton plantations, which offered a short period of relative downtime, sugar plantations required constant, grueling labor. The planters oversaw enslaved African Americans as essential machines rather than human beings, systematically forcing their bodies and spirits beyond endurance to maximize profits. On sugar plantations, enslaved black men and women rose at dawn, harvesting in the blistering heat with machete-like tools designed to slice through tough sugar stalks. Loaded into carts, the stalks were then rushed over to sugar mills where enslaved laborers operated dangerous machinery designed to press the juice from the harvested crops. The boiling cauldrons, powerful presses, and the constant threat of horrific burns, injuries, and even death. Such awful conditions meant that life expectancy for enslaved individuals on sugar plantations was significantly lower than on farms cultivating other less taxing crops, an awful calculation that planters simply accepted, believing that black human life was disposable in the pursuit of profits. Within this brutal economic system stood the Nottaway Plantation. Positioned proudly on the banks of the Mississippi River, it was established in 1859 by John Hampton Randolph, a Virginia planter who migrated southward to exploit Louisiana's sugar boom. Nottaway quickly became emblematic of Southern wealth and power. Randolph understood the lucrative possibilities sugar cultivation offered. In the ambitious and unrelenting pursuit of wealth, he eventually controlled over 6,200 acres of fertile land, with 1,200 of those acres being exclusively dedicated to sugar production. To maximize his profits, Randolph held at his height 155 enslaved African Americans forced to work, live, and die on his plantation. Randolph expressed his wealth boldly, commissioning New Orleans architect Henry Howard to craft a home of unparalleled wealth and size. Built largely from local cypress timber, sourced, prepared, and painstakingly assembled entirely through enslaved labor, Nottaway Plantation stretched nearly 53,000 square feet with 63 opulent rooms, 156 doors and windows, state-of-the-art gas lighting, vast indoor plumbing, and 22 towering columns gracefully overlooking the riverbanks. Upon the mansion's completion, Randolph went as far as destroying the architect's original plans, preventing anyone else from recreating Nottaway's splendor. Yet, beyond the marble tile and the intricate embellishment, each breathtaking room stood as a monument to human suffering. Nottaway was not merely a mansion, it was a gleaming monument to Randolph's wealth, built entirely on stolen freedom, relentless suffering, and enslaved labor. Life in Nottaway resembled life at countless plantations across the South, marked by constant physical exhaustion, terrorizing violence, and emotional torment. Randolph's enslaved workers spent their days cultivating and harvesting sugarcane under the punishing Louisiana sun. Overseers forced an atmosphere of relentless productivity, threatening and inflicting physical punishment through brutal whippings and beatings. Families lived under the ever-present threat of loved ones being torn away, sold off, and separated forever at their master's whim, creating psychological scars and emotional torment through countless generations. Within this stark and humbling slave quarters, life was a testament to resilience amidst brutality. Enslaved black men, women, and children endured unimaginable hardship and humanity systematically stripped away through relentless deprivation and oppressive surveillance embedded into the plantation's architecture itself.
The viral 30-second pink salt trick that melts fat is
Okay,
actually
we
featured on the Today
are
Show. But for those
this
who missed,
morning, everything Nottaway plantation in Louisiana burned all the way to the ground. The firefighters could not even, put enough water or anything on it. They could not get a hold of the flames. It was destined to go down to hell. Okay.
As tensions grew across America, the eruption of the Civil War in 1861 thrust plantations like Nottaway into uncertainty, threatening the very foundations of their existence and the complex systems of forced labor upon which they relied. Battles raged across the country, and freedom became entangled for millions of enslaved people, and the era of relentless oppression began to crumble. By the war's close in 1865, Nottaway's plantation stood remarkably untouched, only bearing minor physical scars of the conflict. Only a stray grape shot lodged into a once pristine column hinted at the turbulent times that the mansion had endured. Yet, beyond this facade of longevity and grandeur, the harsh realities of the post-war South quickly closing in. For planters like John Randolph, they were once powerful and prosperous through enforced and unpaid labor of enslaved African Americans. The war's outcome shattered their economic dominance. Suddenly confronted with the abolition of slavery, Randolph and contemporaries were met with a grim economic reckoning. Thousands of acres of cultivated fields they had relied on for enslaved labor dramatically shrunk, leaving owners burdened with mounting debts and dwindling fortune. Nottaway's once thriving estate, spanning thousands of acres, was eventually reduced down to just 800 acres. Yet, across the South, plantation owners grappled desperately with ruin. The Southern economy staggered. Once wealthy planters faced an uncertain future. In response, Southern planters turned to a system that replicated slavery's profitability and control. Sharecropping. Under this seemingly fair arrangement, black families would rent parcels of land, paying a substantial portion of their harvest as rent. Yet quickly, sharecropping revealed an exploitative heart. Planters manipulated contracts, charged exorbitant prices for supplies, enforcing unfair obligations and debt that became impossible to escape. Rather than freedom, sharecropping imposed a cycle of poverty, generational economic entrapment, and exploitation that mirrored slavery in all but the name. And as the Southern economy was attempting to repair itself, a disturbing transformation began to take hold. Rather than confronting the powerful truths of enslaved suffering, plantation estates and their wealthy owners gradually began to reinvent themselves, shaping a sanitized, romanticized mythology of the antebellum life. Vast mansions, sprawling gardens, and wide porches became symbols of imagined elegance and refinement. Brochures and postcards invited tourists across America to marvel at the South's supposed glory days, deliberately obscuring centuries of forced labor, violence, and hardship. By the turn of the century, places like Nottaway have found themselves a new life, not through cotton or sugar, but as idealistic snapshots of the Old South, deliberately stripped of the brutality that created their wealth. Yet these romanticized narratives could not forever silence the truth. By the late 21st century, activists, historians, and descendants of enslaved individuals increasingly challenged these sanitized representations. Places like Nottaway's grand weddings and luxury hotel stays became focal points of criticism and debate. Pressure mounted. Critics questioned why the lavish facade of wealth and refinement was celebrated so enthusiastically, while the spirits and lies behind that grandeur remained hidden, forgotten, and ignored.
One night, after staying back late at his clinic doing
Okay, we are up this morning sipping, reviewing the Nottaway burning of the plantation in Louisiana. Lots of people are saying the enslaved spirits of the slaves burned the plantation down. I haven't heard anything of like someone, being charged with arson. So I'm being led to believe that's just what happened.
History would intervene. A fire broke out in a small second floor bedroom, unnoticed at first, but swiftly growing. Flames soon engulfed the entire southern wing, consuming furniture and drapery, spreading passionately from room to room. After lengthy efforts from firefighters, Nottaway's mansion was reduced to smoldering ashes by dawn. The mansion that once stood resiliently for 166 years was nothing more than fiery rubble. The loss of the mansion sent emotional tremors through Louisiana's community and the wider South. Some mourned the disappearance of beautiful architecture and craftsmanship. Others, the erasure of an economic symbol. Yet, for me, Nottaway's destruction felt more symbolic, a purging of a site that had long obscured a miserable history beneath its deceptive charm. The fires did more than destroy brick and mortar, it burned away years of romanticized illusion and hollow nostalgia, laying bare a reality of exploitation and trauma concealed beneath. just upriver. The contrasting reality stands in the Whitney Plantation, where the truth of enslavement isn't softened or romanticized. There are no weddings or photo ops. Instead, it presents enslavement in all its honesty and dignity, demanding the respect and reflection that it deserves. In Nottaway's fiery loss, we are perhaps given an opportunity to honor the truth, to dismantle long-held fantasies, to reshape our collective memory, and to understand the breadth and depth of American slavery, uncovering the authentic narratives long hidden behind idealistic facades. Though the flames consumed the mansion that embodied generations of distorted storytelling, the true history, resilient, haunting, remains stubbornly alive. By confronting these painful truths, we ensure that its legacy, the real legacy, will never again be hidden behind columns and grand staircases. Thank you. I'm your host, Country Boy. This is One Mic Black History, and this was the destruction of the Nottaway Mansion. If you like stories like this, you can
We want to pay homage. Thank you so much. We're going to subscribe. Okay, so One Mic Black History. Make sure you guys get over to YouTube. I said YouTube. Okay, it's early, but we got to get this tea out. We have got to review the things that are going on. Plantation Inferno, South's largest antebellum mansion. Oh my goodness, y'all. Burned down to the ground. There's been a lot of different, opinions and views that have come out about the burning of the Nottaway. I, for one, believe that places like that should not, be in existence for a continuous reminder of exactly what a race of our culture endured to, build this country. So I don't feel any ways about it except, I'm glad it burned down. So let's
And when I play,
see what's going on.
I was shocked. I was stunned. I was overwhelmed. I could not believe my eyes. And as this was happening, I was praying, I hope the water doesn't work. The Nottaway Plantation, the largest antebellum plantation remaining in America, folks, burned down. Built in 1859 by enslaved black people. John Randolph, a sugar plantation owner, he owned about 150 slaves. It was converted to a resort for weddings, events, and tours. And this is what happened today. Y'all need some water? Need some water, Nottaway Plantation? I want that shit to be ashes. These punk asses literally turned it into a resort, Michael.
Yeah, I've heard of different things like this, and a couple years ago, I heard about this trend of white people going to plantations as a resort and on vacations and things like this, and they tended to skip over the fact that they were enslaved Africans. When they take them through the tour and all this, they talk about the workers, and this is where the workers slept and things like this. Is like, yeah, okay, all right. There's a song
Derek,
called the roof is on fire. We don't need no water.
Derek, go ahead.
Listen, I have no sympathy when these types of things happen. And the reason why is because what they're trying to do up in Washington, D.C., Roland, I mean, they're trying to stop the African American Smithsonian. They want to talk about DEI as if it's a bad thing, diversity, equity, inclusion. And so, I have no sympathy of this particular horrific place that were built by slaves. Is the roof is on fire.
Morgan.
Share the sentence of my co-panelists here. Goodbye, no sadness, and anybody who's getting married on a former plantation, I know where they might want to go to. So.
YouTube probably is going to block us, so Keenan, you're probably going to have to edit this out. And so when I was going to the golf tournament, the Afro Creek golf tournament today in Maryland, and I saw this video, I just immediately thought of Morgan's state of Ohio.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase.
Mr. Roland Martin's take on it. Okay, of course, Mr. Roland is, pro everything, Black prohibitionists, things like that. So, the America's largest remaining plantation house destroyed. Let's get into some news on it and see what they were saying about it in the news. Okay. So we are reviewing what happened to the Nottaway Plantation in Louisiana. And wow, that's a sky cap view of how large it was. Look at this, guys. Look at how big the entire plantation was. They said like 53,000 acres or some shit. Like, look at how big it was. Oh my God. So what, did they still have like the old slave shacks back here? Would they paint them? Oh, wow. Look at the sky view of it though. Wow. So, I mean, more than likely this was, a man-made fire or an electrical thing. However, one would like to hope that, one of the souls, of the slaves from when this plantation was open and set something off and set it ablaze. They say they could not get enough to try to put out the fire. Okay, so it just burned down to the ground. I mean, I really didn't see too many firemen that were actively really pursuing of trying to get the fire.
The largest remaining antebellum mansion in the South is no more after a fire destroyed it. Nottaway Plantation, located in Iberville Parish, just south of Baton Rouge, caught fire yesterday afternoon. Investigators are still trying to figure out that case and that cause. The plantation, which was built between 1857 and 1859, is a total loss. The mansion is on the National Register of Historic Places and was being used as a resort with 64 rooms available for guests The property has also served as a backdrop in movies, most recently being the set for the 2016 film The Magnificent Seven with Denzel Washington and Chris Pratt.
Wow. So Denzel Washington took his funky ass over there and made a movie at the Nottaway Plantation. They turned it into a historic resort. Girl, what are people saying? What are people saying about the Nottaway Plantation? Tabitha Speaks Politics has some choice words about the Nottaway Plantation burning down. Let's take a listen and sip some of her tea. Okay. Subscribe to her channel. Enlarge the screen. Remember, when you guys are coming in to fill your teacups up, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're catching this on the replay, make sure you like and subscribe.
Been all over my For You page. The Nottaway Plantation out in Louisiana, it has burned to the ground. On this page that I'm looking at, it's described as a fairy tale, surrounded by mature live oaks, magnolia, and pecan trees. It takes you back in time. They also describe it as truly a bucket list experience. The full name is the Nottaway Plantation Resort. It sits on property 31 acres large, has 40 rooms, including
Okay, so 53,000 square feet, 31 acres.
5 suites. The property has a restaurant and bar, lounge and fitness center, tennis courts, outdoor pool and cabana. And of course, the property is perfect for weddings and parties. 15,000 square foot event space. That'll take care of all that. And get this, they go into talking about the owner, the original owner of this plantation, John Hamden Randolph. He purchased the land in 1855. And of course, we know that this plantation was built by slaves. Goes into talking about the beautiful property, and it faces the Mississippi River, which was a major transportation hub for steamboats and all of that stuff. And that's all it says about the history of this plantation. I have to go over to Mildred and have a conversation with Mildred to learn that the plantation housed 155 enslaved black people. It was a sugar plantation. But you see, this is how they want history taught. They don't want to talk about the ugly side of history, about what their ancestors did, how they enslaved black people, how they treated black people inhumanely. Barbarism was the key point of slavery, and they don't want to talk about it. There is no mention about slavery. The slaves he owned, doesn't even describe it as a sugar plantation, describes it as Nottaway Plantation Resort. And I'm looking on this little map, and then way in the back, way back yonder from the main house, the big house, I see something a row of cottages. That's what they're calling slave houses now. Cottages. Imagine all of the money that has been made off of this plantation that was built off of the blood, sweat, and tears of black people. Imagine all of the money that they have made. And I guarantee you, not one red cent went to the descendants of the slaves that built this plantation. Not one red cent.
Thank you so much for that great rendition, Miss Tabitha. Make sure y'all get over there and subscribe to Tabitha Speaks Politics. Okay. What are people saying about the Nottaway Plantation? Oh my goodness, y'all. So this is the actual um, Nottaway burning in real time. People from their camera phones. Okay. I mean, can y'all imagine being a person of a descendant of an enslaved African? Okay. Now living in this city where they have turned this place, I don't see anything historic about it except the enslaved slaves, um, into a resort where people come to stand on the grounds in the place where people were brutalated, mutilated, humiliated, deteriorated, and obliterated, all in the name of another race and culture wanting another race and culture to do the hard, heavy lifting and hard work in the sun fields of Louisiana for sugar. For sugar. And I mean, I take, complete glory in watching it burn slow, as I'm sure, you know, everybody that ever was on this ground, their spirits rejoiced in the fact that they will no longer rejoice in their misery, hurt, pain, and humiliation. This is the Nottaway Plantation burning down a couple of days ago, y'all. Louisiana on fire. Louisiana on fire. Now they got the big crane out there. Ooh, look at it. Black smoke. And it goes to show you, what a lot of Black people feel about how, you know, other races still view our, just humiliation of our complete existence from the beginning of the moment they ever introduced us into this area of the world. It's just disheartening, disgustingly sad that after we have come through, you know, even having a Black president, we still have plantations that exist in the United States where people can go and laugh, dance, eat on the backs of the blood that stains the grounds of where they're standing at from people being brutally murdered for absolutely doing nothing but being a Black person. It was meant to do exactly what it's doing. That's why they were unable to save it. It was meant to burn exactly how it burned, just like that. That's why they were unable to save any part of the house. Mm. Look, look at him trying to get the water to come out. Look at him scrambling around, trying to get some water out the hose. Look. Nah, them slaves is standing on them water hoses. Them slaves is standing on them water hoses. They making damn sure y'all asses ain't putting that fucking fire out. Ah, look, that ain't nothing but a mist to that fire. That's like taking some water out of your hand and flinging it in the air at a goddamn fire. That ain't nothing but a mist. That ain't nothing but a mist. Ah, look at that. Did y'all see that person walk through the window? I swear I believe I saw a person walk through the window in a dress. Look at the far left window. Oh my God, y'all. Look right here. Uh-uh. Y'all. Y'all. I seen a person walk past the window to the wall, to the fire, burn it all down to the ground. Okay. I seen a person walk past right here in a black dress, y'all. I swear I did. Okay, let me try to go back a little bit more. I'm about to turn my lights on, y'all, because I swear I seen a person walk past that goddamn window. Uh-uh. Okay, let me look close. Right here where this window is, y'all. Okay, that might have been a firefighter on the back end, but I know y'all seen it too. Okay, a person walked past there. I'm like, oh, sweet baby God. We told you it was the slaves. We told you. Girl. Nottaway Plantation burned down to the ground. This is a full hour. If y'all want to go over and watch it, it's a full hour of them trying to attempt to, put it out, but to no avail. It burned down to hell. I mean, right here, it's fully gone. This picture right here, y'all. This motherfucking point right here, y'all, is fully gone. That looks like the Nottaway Plantation up in hell flames. In hell flames. That looks like hell, which is exactly what it deserved for the hell that it put the people that it enslaved and entrapped there. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go over and get some real time comments on what people have been saying about Nottaway Plantation burning down to the ground. Okay. Okay. Nottaway Plantation comments, y'all. We got people saying shit like, what's the issue? If the home claims to be what is and its value, it should have been made out of concrete. Fatima says. Bo says, that's horrible. That was a beautiful place. William says, what a terrible loss. I'd rather see 13% of the US population go up in black smoke down to the very last one of them over losing any more of these irreplaceable houses. Shonda says, you are a disgusting excuse for a human being. Leanne says, what are you trying to say? Okay. These are some of the comments that have been made about the Nottingham plantation being burned down. Darlene says it's so sad. Sandy, so very sad. Sherry, lost piece of history. Heartbreaking to see the destruction. Becky says, I'm heartbroken. We stayed there years ago in Cornelia's bedroom. There was a flying cockroach that had us crying with laughter. It ended up on top of the canopy bed. I slept under the covers all night. Great memories. And I hope that you are being haunted by the souls that also had their memories in that horrific place called the Nottaway Plantation. Christy says, that's terribly sad. Don, it's always so sad when one of our great historic homes are lost. Thoughts and prayers to everyone involved. Girl, please. People so fake and full of shit. Okay. Sure Shive Nicholson says, what a loss. Those plantations don't stand a chance in a fire. My neighbor's plantation home was gone in minutes by a lightning strike. 200-year heart of pine just disappears in a fire. Devastating. Good. It's the reason why I was struck by lightning. Stefan says, can I just wake up tomorrow and this all be a terrible nightmare? No, you cannot. This is definitely a real rendition of what needed to happen to the Nottaway Plantation. Black enslaved people couldn't wake up and just say, oh, that was just a terrible nightmare. No, they endured it for 400 years. So y'all endure for however long it took for them to burn the plantation down to the ground and suck it up. Libby says, no sprinkler system. These old landmarks are priceless and need to be given the funds, both private donations and government aid, to have protective systems. Not the government aid needs to make sure that the plantations that enslaved black people have what it needs to protect it from going up in flames. Miss Libby said so. Thomas J. says, kind of defeats the purpose of preserving them. They are preserving exactly how they were built. Adding sprinklers would be intrusive and damaging to the structure, not to mention good, god awful looking. People are so retarded and pitiful. Retarded and pitiful, y'all. These are some of the comments that have been left. What a shame. I hate to hear this. This is heart shattering. It's such a shame to lose a beautiful piece of architecture. Girl. Now, y'all see exactly how they feel about where the grounds are stained with the blood of our ancestors and how they got that way. They don't fuck. It's a piece of their beautiful historic history that they just can't get back. They were honeymooning there. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Then they went and spent their 25th anniversary there this year. Matt says his fourth great grandfather John built that house. If your great grandfather is a black man, then yeah, but according to what I'm looking at, Matt, no. Okay. Ugh. So there's a lot of, racist remarks while people are sitting idle by saying that there's no longer racism. We may not see it in the form of them actually taking our naked asses off of a ship and throwing rags on us and chains on us as they did to the people that actually lived at the Nottaway Plantation. But these are their comments when the plantation catches on fire. I'm so glad we got to tour the plantation years ago. It was just beautiful. What a terrible loss. Historical pieces will never be replaced. Okay? That's what they think about where exactly, what exactly the Nottaway Plantation was and what it did. Okay? So we are now going to switch gears and go on over to another place in Louisiana that has people burning to be set free. Okay. The Louisiana jailbreak, where 10 inmates have reportedly escaped in New Orleans. Okay. Let's take a look and a listen. Thank you guys for sipping tea with me this morning. We're reviewing Louisiana on Fire.
Still underway in the South after several inmates escaped from a Louisiana jail. The jailbreak shows the inmates running out of the jail and jumping down off a ledge. You see it right there. 7 of the 10 fugitives have been able to stay ahead of that manhunt for 4 days. Now, the Louisiana governor says there is no excuse for the failure at the jail that allowed violent criminals on the streets. ABC's Faith Abube has the list.
A high-stakes manhunt underway for 7 inmates considered armed and dangerous, caught on this surveillance video breaking out of a New Orleans jail.
These are violent criminals, and they escaped.
Authorities say a total of 10 inmates busted out of the Orleans Parish facility in the early hours of Friday, taking advantage of defective locks on multiple jail cells. Stunning photos showing the getaway path, a hole behind the toilet with this taunting message, "Too easy, LOL."
A failure in the jail system should never have happened.
The inmates were on the run for at least 7 hours before jail employees realized they were gone. Officials taking even longer to notify the public.
One of the escaped inmates captured right here in the French Quarter, the busiest and most important tourist hub here in New Orleans. It's only about 2 miles from that jail.
Only 3 of the 10 fugitives have been recaptured. An internal investigation underway at the jail after the sheriff said her own employees may have helped in the stunning jailbreak.
We think this was intentional. There is much more than meets the eye.
And again, Stephanie, we're now in the fourth day of this investigation with 7 fugitive inmates on the run right now. The governor blasting the failures at this jail for allowing those violent criminals on the streets. In the meantime, he says he wants a full state audit of the facility. Authorities also are trying to incentivize more public help. They're boosting the bounty on each of those inmates' heads to $20,000 each. Stephanie.
Faith Abube for us in New Orleans. Thanks so much.
That is a lot, y'all. 10 very violent offenders have broken out of the jail in Louisiana, in New Orleans, okay? Louisiana is on fire. First, we started off with the Nottaway Plantation burning to the fucking ground. And now we have this. Okay, so yeah.
Court, the judge, and the governor to address that situation.
This newly released surveillance video, captured with facial recognition technology and first obtained by ABC News, appears to show 2 of the suspects in the French Quarter just hours after the jailbreak. The men seen wearing plain clothes and trying to avoid cameras.
Most of them are violent in terms of gun violence. Some of them have murder backgrounds. And so all of them are considered very dangerous and probably potentially armed at this time.
Authorities say on Friday, just after midnight, 10 inmates broke through defective locks on multiple cells and crawled out of the jail through a hole behind a toilet.
This massive jailbreak, which my statistics...
And they wrote "too easy" on the wall. They wrote "this is too easy, laugh out loud" on the wall.
It could be the largest jailbreak in the history of the state. Should never have happened. And the public deserves to know who, what, and how this happened.
It took authorities more than 7 hours to notice the brazen jailbreak and alert the public. Some of the suspects are back behind bars, but officials are investigating whether the inmates had help.
They had a 7-hour head start before anyone even realized that they were gone. A 7-hour head start.
We have indication that these detainees received assistance in their escape from individuals inside of our department.
3 jail employees have been suspended pending an investigation. Jacqueline Lee, ABC News, Los Angeles.
My.
That large police presence comes as we've learned that 4th inmate was captured in New Orleans East tonight.
That's right. WDS reporter Jasmine Franklin is live tonight with more. And Jasmine, you spoke with people who witnessed this arrest. Tell us about it.
Gina, people who live in the area where the arrest happened say they were really just shocked and surprised to see the state police and SWAT teams right outside of their homes as 21-year-old Gary Price was taken back into custody.
It is a little jarring to know that it was so close to home.
Romel Smith says he has lived on Good Drive in New Orleans East for 6 years. He was shocked to see a large police presence right outside his home Monday evening.
I literally just saw something outside of my door. It was quiet when they came in, so I stepped outside and my neighbors across the street, they were out, and we were just like, what's going on?
Multiple law enforcement agencies assisting.
There are children everywhere. There are people coming and going. Thank God that he didn't grab somebody and try to use them, as a shield for the police not to catch him. So we're going to thank God for that.
Taking inmate Gary Price back into custody. This video showing the moments the 21-year-old was captured in New Orleans East after being on the run for 4 days.
This is one of those situations where I would say was an absolute benefit. The coordinated efforts between the state and of course the city.
Price is now the 4th inmate found after escaping from the Orleans Justice Center Friday. Multiple escapees still remain at large as hundreds of law enforcement personnel continue to. left the area.
But you could see, 5, maybe 6 on the footage.
Dale Corcoran is manager at Bierman Precision. The tool shop sits along I-10 in the area where several inmates ran Friday morning.
Never in my farthest, dreams or nightmares would I have ever envisioned somebody running across the interstate from the prison like that, no.
He tells me employees are using extra caution, knowing some of the inmates escaped near his business.
It's just been, one of those things where you kind of have to just be more vigilant, and if you see something, say something.
And neighbors say they are confident police will find the remaining escapees.
I anticipate that they're going to find them all over the city. It doesn't really, they go where their family is.
And state police tell us hundreds of law enforcement personnel will around the clock until they find the remaining escapees. Reporting live in New Orleans, Jasmine Franklin, WDSU News.
And 21-year-old Gary Price, he was captured on Prentice Avenue and Good Drive in New Orleans East. This is the second inmate to be captured in that area. So far, all 4 who were captured have been found in New Orleans within the city limits. And so far, these 6 inmates remain at large. Derek Groves, Jermaine Donald, Corey Boyd, Leo Tate, Lenton Van Buren, and Antoine Massey. If you have any information that can help police or help detectives, please visit WDSU.com or call Crime Stoppers.
So
Whatnot.
there appears to still be several inmates on the loose.
We are going to listen in here for a couple minutes. The DA in New Orleans is giving an update now. Took a question on those escaped inmates and the search for them. Let's listen.
Corey Boyd, there's a charge and that matter is accepted and is being prosecuted. It's set for discovery for July 16th of 2025, and we hope we get the evidence from the sheriff's office. Robert Moody had charges that came out of OJC. That case had to be refused because the sheriff's office simply did not provide the evidence for us. And that's been happening for a couple of years now. And we have here letters that we have written to the sheriff's office, to the sheriff specifically, calling her attention to a number of issues. We can share those with you, calling attention to the fact that we are not receiving information timely. In one case in particular, we had to bring charges against a sheriff's deputy because he was removing and hiding weapons carved in the jail during the fight, and that evidence was not available for us to move forward with, and we're bringing charges against that person. There's also a letter to Judge Afric, to the Doug Williams from the FBI and Dwayne Evans, calling attention to a number of these matters as they were occurring in the jail. So it's not new, and it is frustrating that the governor would not have just simply called me over the weekend. My phone was on. I was working with our digital forensics team, going through jail calls in an effort to try to figure out who might have been involved and knew of this planned jailbreak and who might have received these individuals once they got out. So I really wish that the governor would have just asked me the question you asked me, and we could have provided him all the documentation. He would have easily seen that the evidence simply was never turned over to my office to go forward with those cases.
Keith? All right, I'll go next to Rob. Rob, anything on the topic of O'Keefe Johnson?
I mean, in light of the Johnson case, Mr. Williams, how concerned are you for some of the other witnesses involved in this escape right now and possible retribution? What is your office doing to try to protect those witnesses?
So, Rob, I am personally afraid, not just for myself, but for my lawyers who tried the case against the individual twice. We were asking for a life sentence of this man. And he is now at large. Two of the lawyers who I tried that case with, who successfully went forward, able to get a conviction on that case. These lawyers got it down this weekend with their families out of fear of retribution and retaliation. So, you know, I am I've been very clear, and let me tell you what my office did immediately upon finding out from the press about this jailbreak, because that's how we found out. We immediately began working. Allison Morgado, the chief of our victim witness, began calling victims and witnesses to let them know that the defendants in these cases, in their cases, were out and at large, and that it was necessary to take precautions. We worked with the NOPD to make sure that these individuals, those who wanted to be relocated, could be relocated. And they're very afraid. And I think they have a right to be afraid. You know, the lawyers who tried that case with me, the witnesses who were brave enough to come forward and stare Derek Groves down in that courtroom, the next of kin who sat in that courtroom knowing what he did to their family members. We are all the ones in harm's way, not Jeff Landry.
Eleanor, anything on Johnson or the current issue?
Current issue?
Yeah, certainly.
Jason, you mentioned, or the governor said that these pretrial cases are moving too slow. You're saying you're having issues with the sheriff's office. Regardless of that, like you mentioned, these cases have victims, these cases have victims' families that might be watching right now saying, one, not only am I scared, I'm frustrated that I haven't been able to secure justice for my family. Now the people that hurt me and my family are on the run. What would you say to those people watching?
It should never happen. It should never happen. When you look at what occurred on Friday,
so we are shipping tea on the Louisiana on fire this week, okay? With the Nottaway Plantation burning down to the ground. Jailbreak of the inmates, okay? Thank you guys. And pawn the replay. I'm gonna need y'all to like and subscribe when you pawn the replay.
Ten men were in a single pod. There's not a pod over there made for 10 men. There were monitors that should have been watched that would have observed these individuals getting into that first floor pod. Derek Groves, the person's case that I personally tried, and he was on trial for a double homicide. There are rules and protocols for correctional facilities. I've toured that jail. I've seen that jail before it was occupied by inmates with former Sheriff Guzman. And there is a control room with monitors that are viewing every part and parcel of that area. The fact that these individuals were even on the first floor, you don't keep the most dangerous people on the first floor. They're supposed to be on higher floors, right? And so there are a number of breakdowns that occurred, and any family member who is scared or frustrated, they have every right to be, because this should not have happened. And if it happened at 1 a.m., they should have been notified at 1:30, right? Because they were in harm's way. And there will be an inquiry into everything that's occurred in this case. I believe this office is obligated to do that. We've made it clear that we're going to do it in an objective way, in an unbiased way. But the people of this community deserve answers. These victims and these witnesses deserve answers. And to the question about why, I think the governor asked a question about cases taking too long. Well, after we convict someone, it's not on the DA's office to go pick them up in a van and drive them up there and go. That's the state's responsibility by law. If it was up to me, he wouldn't have been here a single day after his conviction, but unfortunately, it's not up to me. Now, here's the other piece of that. There seems to be a little bit of selection.
So if anyone's wondering why these convicted criminals on the level of where they were murderers, okay, were not at the pokey. Instead, they were still in the penal system, was because someone neglected to go and get them and transport them to the Pokey. Okay, Pokey being the prison. Okay, that's what he just Jason Williams, the Orleans Parish District Attorney, just alluded us to understanding.
Collective amnesia about what's actually occurring in Orleans Parish. Orleans Parish has an 85% conviction rate in homicide cases, which is an all-time high in the modern era. And I would, if we're going to pose questions from the podium, the question would be, show me another parish that is trying this many murder cases and this many rape cases with an 85% success rate. And to forget the fact that we could not have jury trials for more than a year in this parish, longer than the other parish, there obviously is a backlog. But that's a busy place. The courtroom next door, Tulane and Broad, is one of the busiest courtrooms in the state of Louisiana, and I would encourage the governor and his team to come and look at it. Regardless of the backlog of cases from the pandemic, regardless of the backlog from cases because of the state crime lab, regardless of all those issues, the lawyers, the jurors, the witnesses, the judges over there are working very, very hard, and it is one of the busiest courtrooms in the state. So to suggest that justice is not being served because of the volume of cases we have, that is factually dishonest, incorrect, and disingenuous.
We'll go to Chelsea with Axios.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you mentioned the letter.
We are the Skaggs family,
Okay,
Matthew
we
and Cosette,
are
and we are owners of...
from everything burning in Louisiana, okay? From the plantations to the inmates at the New Orleans Parish Jail, okay? They were burning to get the fuck out, and that's exactly what they did. Now we have a lot of afraid people that were directly involved with the cases of these inmates that are burning for answers, okay? They want to know why the fuck they were not immediately transported from the jail to the prison once they were convicted. These prisoners had the opportune moments given to them that allotted them the time to carve a fucking hole behind the goddamn toilet system in a cell and break out.
Letters where you raised the concerns with OPSO. Did you have any other concerns with OPSO that you addressed with them? And if so, either way, rather, did you raise any of those concerns with any other city officials?
Yes, we raised numerous concerns with regards to inmates harming inmates and never receiving reports about it. We've raised concerns about individuals released that were not supposed to be released. Every single time there was a breakdown, we reached out to the sheriff directly. We reached out to the federal judge in one instance, making them aware of sort of the long list of things that had occurred, to no avail and with no correction.
Joey,
did you say 10 men in one pod? Do you mean, you don't mean one cell, do you?
So if you look at the picture that's come up with the toilet that was pulled away from that opening, that area is a pod. And in that pod, those 10 individuals that escaped from that area should have never been allowed to be in that area together themselves to get out from that spot. Right, so yes, someone should have caught the destruction of the toilet, the destruction of the wall, and getting out, because that doesn't happen in a day, does it? All right, I mean, like, there's a bolt on the inside, on the back side of that toilet, and there's no tools. There's not supposed to be any tools in the jail, so certainly that didn't happen in a matter of minutes, right? So it was missed during the entire time that plan was being hatched, and then when these individuals made way out of the space that they were supposed to be in, there should have been a sheriff's deputy at a post that would have observed that. So this is not just about one lunch break. It seems like there's a lot of lunch breaks that occur.
I have another question. Groves was awaiting second
Correct.
And then 8 had already been sentenced. Do we know why he was still going to jail?
You know, I don't. I mean, that is not something that district attorneys across the country or across the state have any control of. I think you'd have to take it up with the Department of Corrections, which is a state entity under the governor's control. But it's an excellent question. I understand that I think approximately 20 inmates were taken from the jail and were taken to the state facility after the jailbreak. If that could be done after the jailbreak, could have been done months ago or a year ago. So you'd have to take that up with state officials. I can't answer that question.
Something more from Cassie?
Yeah, we have some viewers kind of asking some questions here, so I just thought I would get one of them. One person asked about what about the refusals that weren't jail-related when it came to some of these inmates? Some of the cases were refused, like some domestic abuse cases and stuff like that.
Look, I think I saw Clancy Dubose on last night, and he summed it up in a way better than I can. There's not a DA in this country that wants to refuse a case, right? We bring cases when there is evidence and when there is witness support to go forward. It is unethical to go forward if the complaining witness changes their mind and says they don't want the case to go forward, or if we don't have the evidence to prove the case. For example, if it's a jailhouse fight and there's video surveillance of the fight and we never get the video, what do you think is going to happen when jurors are listening to closing arguments in that case and they didn't see any evidence? They're going to find the person not guilty. That's if a judge lets it go that far. So we move forward when we have evidence to support a prosecution. We cannot ethically move forward when we don't. We're not going to waste taxpayer dollars with a case we can't prove.
Another question from Rob.
Jason, what specifically, though, is your office doing to try and protect the witnesses in this case? Or are you working with state officials to try and do that? And are you worried that some of the comments from the governor could possibly impact that working relationship?
So I'll tell you what we're doing first. We're working with the NOPD and our other partners. And look, Head of Troop NOLA, AG Morrell, Josh Jackson, Special Agent in charge of ATF, and Kirkpatrick, NOPD, we are all collaborating and working on the crisis at hand, which is 7 dangerous inmates at large. We're going to continue to do that. I have been working tirelessly with our digital forensics team, listening to these jail calls to figure out if we can provide some information that can be helpful in finding these individuals, at least to know where they are. We're going to keep doing that. We're not going to stop collaborating because someone took this opportunity to engage in some partisan in New Orleans. And that's not going to help us find these people. I'm going to do my dead level best to stay focused on the crisis at hand and at the job that we have to do here in the city of New Orleans.
The final question from one from Joe and one from Ellen to close this out.
Can you say anything else about the lawyers from your office who run the state? Are we talking about prosecutors? Can you say how many?
Chances are you or someone you know is dealing with the limitations of pain.
At how charismatic the one inmate is walking down the street as if he's a regular everyday comer and goer just like you and I don't want you to be fooled. I want you to, know this dangerous individual if you see him and turn his ass in. Your life and everybody you love's life is in danger if you come across this dangerous criminal.
I'm not going to address their protection. I'm not going to address where they are. All I'm going to say is it is unfortunate that people who are doing the work for the citizens to secure justice against a dangerous person felt like their lives were in danger because a man who might wish them harm was free to roam about the parish and this neighborhood, and we're a rock's throw from the jail, and they were told nothing by their colleagues in the sheriff's office.
Jason, you mentioned that you were listening, your team is listening to these jailhouse calls. At the press conference last week, the sheriff said, we may have missed some, we don't have staff, when she was asked about those calls and the way that they can communicate on those iPads. Then is it frustrating to seem like you are now playing catch up on what could have been prevented in the first place?
So yeah, it's not just frustrating, it's downright dangerous. Police, prosecutors, troopers, U.S. Marshals, after the fact, yes, we're trying to compile this information to see if we can figure out how this unfolded. There was one entity
I want everyone to look at how in the right bottom corner, this deadly dangerous convicted inmate that was supposed to be shipped to prison unfortunately missed his bandwagon is carelessly walking through the streets, or excuse me, not carelessly, charismatically walking through the streets, okay, as if he's, anybody out for an afternoon stroll. He doesn't look like a dangerous offending person. He doesn't move like a dangerous offending person. He's not out foaming at the mouth, raging, going crazy. He looks like any other suave nigga that you want to see walking down the street, that you wouldn't want to be, afraid of. However, he is one of the 10 inmates that escaped. Excuse me. And potentially still one of the 7 inmates that are at large. Watch this nigga moving down the street.
That was responsible for every movement of these individuals while they are in custody. The idea that they are saying they had to go back and look at footage is ridiculous. Those monitors are there to be observed in real time. That is how that jail was built, right? So this concept that they didn't alert the press or the public because they had to figure out exactly who was out, that's problematic. The fact that they had to go back and look at the footage from 1 o'clock that someone should have been looking at, that is problematic. Because, let's just peel back the onion here. Okay, this person, as it was described, went to go get a bite of food, I think is how it was described. All right, so they come back from lunch, and nobody's there at 1:30. What do we do? This is absolutely absurd, and it is absolutely dangerous. This should have never happened. And this whole thing that happened Sunday evening is only distracting the focus from what it needs to be on, which is bringing dangerous inmates back into custody before someone gets hurt. We are all so blessed right now. We are all so blessed. And I'm not just talking about my lawyers. I'm not just talking about people who work close to the jail. In this community, people are desperate. These men are facing long terms in jail. And the fact that they have not hurt someone trying to steal a car, that is the grace of God.
All right, thanks a lot to you all.
Thank you, guys. We'll get this documentation to you too, so you'll have it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we are reviewing what the hell's been going on in Louisiana. Is the tea this morning, y'all. It's burning hot. Louisiana is on fire, y'all. From the plantations to the jail escape. To the jail escape, y'all. Historic escape raises questions about how New Orleans sheriff prioritizes spending of the public funds.
hearing a lot of questions about whether the Orleans Parish Sheriff has enough money to adequately run and secure.
Right here. So we got Gary Price captured, Robert Moody captured, Keenan Dennis captured, and Kendall Miles is captured. Unfortunately, Antoine Massey, Corey Boyd, Leo Tate, Linton Van Buren, Jane Donald, and Derek Groves are still not apprehended.
We've been hearing a lot of questions about whether the Orleans Parish Sheriff has enough money to adequately run and secure the jail.
Well, many of those questions surround a $14.8 million general fund balance that was documented in the agency's most recent audit. Investigator Katie Moore walks us through the numbers.
We've been hearing a lot of numbers thrown around about how much money the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office has to run and secure the jail, especially with now obvious needs such as money to secure cell doors.
The city of New Orleans will also continue to ensure that funding for the jail has been a priority since taking office, 7 years, actually last week. My administration has put forth over $577 million for the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. $460 million.
Well, all of that sounds well and good, lady. However, the jail is old and easily escapable. Okay? I don't know what the jail in Louisiana got going on except dangerous offending inmates, murderers breaking out of it. However, I know that in the city that I live in, you're not cutting through no wall to escape out of this jail. It's completely made of concrete steel. The floors, the walls, the doors are completely made of concrete steel. You're not breaking out of the jail in the city that I live in. So I don't know about the $400 and $577 million y'all are using it down to the sheriff's office, but it would appear that y'all need to build a new jail. Okay. Yeah.
Million of that have been on operating expenses alone, with an increase of $36 million relative to capacity building in which we have been funding.
Lots of numbers, but in a nutshell, city tax dollars fund the vast majority of the sheriff's budget. This year, the OPSO got $71.8 million. Why hasn't the agency fixed the security gaps with some of that money? Well, the sheriff's office says it just doesn't have enough. Some are asking questions about some of the money mentioned in this legislative audit that says in 2023, the sheriff had a $14 million fund balance. Here's what the sheriff's chief financial officer, Bianca Brown, had to say about it at the Escape News Conference last Friday.
As of today, that balance is about $6.3 million that is still due out as of 2025.
So what happened to that money? Basically, Brown said it's all spoken for, but the balance is down to a little over $6 million. She ticked off a laundry list of things that it was used for.
$4.2 million was related to accounts payable. $9.5 million was related to FEMA for capital projects only. The seizure and restricted cash had about $98,000 in it due to others, which was processing fee, DAPs, clerk of courts, NOPD property room. They get about $97,000 of that money.
And $400,000 more for background checks for civilian employees and other expenses. If there wasn't enough to properly secure the jail, City Council member Joe Giarrusso questions why Hudson never asked the federal court to force the city to pony cash. The court oversees the jail through a consent decree.
If you think you really need money and the council or the mayor isn't providing it to you,
go file a motion in the federal court.
This email exchange we obtained with city leaders, including Geruso, indicates Hudson has never asked the court to force the city's hand.
One of the points we've raised repeatedly with the court is that the sheriff refuses to be in the city's accounting system, brass, and we keep on raising this because we've given the sheriff $70 million and have gotten requests for like $400,000 in travel and leasing of numerous Tahoes. So we approach it with, if you have a need and it's for public safety purposes, we want to fund that. But we're not going to fund the other stuff and without the necessary accountability.
But the sheriff's office insists it has been repeatedly sounding the alarm about insufficient funds for maintenance, but it has been falling on deaf ears.
Just on Monday, we went to the City Planning Commission and we reported this out. We asked for the money to secure this. So the funding is not available to do what needs to be done.
Now, some state lawmakers have asked the Louisiana Legislative Auditor to conduct a full audit of the Orleans Sheriff's finances to find out. Katie Moore, WWL Louisiana.
Well, wherever the money is, they're going to fine-tooth comb it, because now 10 very dangerous convicted criminals have escaped out of jail through a hole in the wall. That's going to conclude our tea time this morning on Louisiana on Fire, y'all. I really want y'all to stay safe, okay? Keep your doors locked at all times. Travel during the day, accompanied with someone at night. In the Louisiana area, that goes for, nationwide. If in the event these escaped criminals are able to travel outside of the city, okay, please be safe. Okay, don't talk to strangers. Let's all work together. If you see these people that have escaped from the Louisiana jail, don't be stupid. Turn them in. That's going to conclude my tea review tonight on Louisiana burning, from the plantations to the jails, okay, down to the sheriff's office. Thank you guys so much for sipping tea with Tanisha tonight. I love you. Thank you for loving me. Have a great time. Remember, stay sipping. Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay sipping.